All right. Well, welcome back to I'm Still Here. I'm Heather. In 1998, I was diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer. It changed everything for us, but I'm still here. And today is super exciting because my guest was actually diagnosed before I was. um, I just want to welcome to the podcast Beth Guendjolan. Is that right?
Good girl.
All right. Um, Beth, can you thank you first. Thank you so much for coming and being a part of this. But can you introduce yourself?
Thank you for inviting me. Well, my name is Beth Guendjolan, and I'm a breast cancer survivor thriver since 1998. Um,
When were you
but,
diagnosed?
uh, Actually, in January of 98,
Mhm.
and I had all my surgery done February 6th of 98. So that's when I call myself, my start of my journey was February 6th, 1998.
Okay, so we were in the same year, but I was the very tail end of 1998, and
Okay.
you started out the year with
Mm-hmm.
cancer.
Yep. Yep.
Tell me, can you tell me like how old were you when you were diagnosed?
I was 38, and
Okay,
I actually found the lump myself.
okay,
A few years prior, I had a lump on the other side. So I had seen a surgeon and it was nothing. So I did have a baseline mammogram.
okay,
So, that helped them a little.
yeah,
And I felt the lump. And when I went from a mammogram, it didn't show up. I
okay.
mean, so the tech was nice and said, "Oh, are you having an ultrasound?" I said, "Oh, of course I am." So I went immediately from there to an ultrasound, and there was a 3 point, centimeters that showed up in my left breast.
Okay. What was life like prior to cancer? Were you
I had a 10 and 12-year-old daughter.
okay?
I helped my husband run his plumbing business. He had a plumbing business.
Okay.
And I mean, we were just moving right along. Everything was fine,
Yeah.
until I found the lump.
What did you know about cancer at that time?
Nothing. I knew nothing. I
Okay.
knew absolutely nothing.
Yeah. So you knew enough just to go, oh wait, this lump might mean something and I should get it checked out. But other than that, I knew nothing too. I was like, I was so clueless. So tell me about what happened immediately after, because I feel like sometimes that diagnosis, all those early days are just such some things you remember so clearly and some things are such a blur. But can you take me back to those early days?
Well, I was fortunate because um, I had a lot of friends that were nurses, and I had a great team of doctors.
Okay.
Okay. I have to say things were much, I think, better back then as far as doctors and how quickly they got things done versus now.
Okay.
Um, I found the lump on a Sunday.
Okay.
Okay. I went in immediately to my gynecologist who saw me Monday as
Yeah.
soon as I called.
Yeah.
He said, I don't think it's anything because we've had a lump before. He said, but I'll do a needle aspiration right then and there in his office. He said, well, there's not really a lot of fluid in it. He said, I'm going to send it out. I really don't think it's anything. It'll probably take 2 weeks to come back. And he said, so just be patient. Well, he called me Thursday, 4 days later,
Okay.
and he says to me, we need a breast surgeon. There's atypical cells. I had no idea what atypical cells meant, but I'm sure it didn't sound good if I needed a breast surgeon.
Right,
So
right.
I said, okay. And he said, go get your book out because that was the year that the HMO started. So you needed to like pick out doctors from the book.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
So I got the book out and I said, there happens to be a wonderful surgeon here. He said, beautiful. He said, call Dr. Porterfield. I said, I will.
Okay.
Well, he had gone on a safari. So his associate, who was a colon doctor who knew me, said, oh no, you cannot wait. He said, my wife had breast cancer. Go to Miami. So I called my mother. What I didn't know what to do. I called my mother. I said, Mom, I think I have cancer. I don't know. She said, I'll call you right back. That was on a Friday. The following Monday, I got in and
Okay.
everything was boom, boom, boom. I went right into Miami. I went to Mount Sinai. They did 8 core biopsies.
Okay.
They discovered that it was cancer. It was lobular breast cancer. They sent me right there to the plastic surgeon in the next building.
Okay.
Okay. And 2 weeks later, I know 1 week later. I went on a Friday. I take it back. My mother made a phone call, went on a Friday, and the following Friday I had a double mastectomy with reconstruction. 1 week later, it was a done deal. There was none of this waiting, this, that. They knew I had cancer. They knew it was 3.8 centimeters. They knew it was lobular. They didn't have all this other testing that they do now. And they're like, double mastectomy, we're done.
Okay.
2 weeks after that, I started chemotherapy. Okay,
Okay.
none of this waiting either. They started
Yeah.
immediately chemotherapy on me because of my age and lymph node involvement.
So had they done, was it staged at that point?
Yes, stage 2. They
Okay.
bumped it up to stage 3 because they took out 20 lymph nodes, 15 were infected. And they did have sentinel node. That was the start of the sentinel node, which they did very different back then. I was sleeping. You know, everybody says they get the dye and this and that. I was sleeping. I woke up and found everything out when I woke up. I
Okay.
knew I was having a double mastectomy, but I didn't know any node involvement. I didn't know anything till I woke up.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, it is a little, I mean, it changes all the time. I didn't do surgery first, but I did chemo to start. So not doing surgery first was sort of a new trend also at that time in the game. So
I wish I did that, but they didn't offer that to me.
I know, honestly, all those, I wish kind of things, I'm like, oh, if we could have really preserved my breast, I wish I would have done that, for stage 4 at this point, a lot of times they don't do mastectomies. And I know it's super scary for women because they want it out, but I, through chemotherapy, was able to see the whole tumor shrink.
Yeah.
And if I could have preserved the breast and all of the sensation and feeling and all of that that would come with it, that would have been really fantastic, I think.
Yeah.
So, you don't, I mean, you can't look back and go, this would have been the best, but who knows?
Well, they do. It's nice that they do chemo first because it spares a big lymph node dissection. If they would have done chemo on me first, they might have seen lymph nodes that had necrosis because they would have been dead,
Yeah.
even though they would have gone back in. But, I have lymphedema, which is the gift that
Yeah.
keeps giving
Yeah.
because,
Yeah.
of the dissection. So,
Yeah. Yeah, and it was super empowering to be able to see the cancer shrinking too, like the tumor shrinking, So that's
yeah.
Um, what do you remember telling your kids, or how did you handle it as a family?
I told them the truth. I mean,
Yeah.
it was scary. I mean, I was in serious trouble. I went from, I told them that I had cancer. I told them, that I have to have surgery, that, they're going to take mommy's boobies off and build me back together again and all this. And I don't know if they really understood until it became stage 4. They were like, okay. And, I said, I'm tough and I'll do everything I can, and they were like okay with it. Like I said, I don't think they understood much until 3 months later when I became stage 4, while done chemotherapy. Then it was a different ballgame.
So let's talk about that. How did you find out about that, or what happened?
Back in the day, I was going to have a stem cell transplant. I was going to do adriamycin and Cytoxin,
Yeah.
and then I was going to have a stem cell transplant. And my mother was going to be my person in the room with me to have the stem cell. And my husband was going to stay here and take care of the kids.
Yeah.
And the plastic surgeon wanted to take my expanders out and put the real implants in to make me comfortable while I was going to have a stem cell, because I would be quarantined for 21 days in a room.
Yeah.
So when he went in, because he was a great surgeon and did a lot of this, he saw something on my scar line that he didn't like.
Okay.
So he put it on a slide and he asked pathology, what is he looking at? And they said cancer cells. And he's thinking, she just had 3 months of chemotherapy. How could she have cancer cells?
Okay.
So my husband wasn't even with me for the exchange. My mom was. And I signed for her to make decisions. So the surgeon came out and he said, we want to take 5 inches of a pectoral muscle. We don't know if it infiltrated or not. We just see cells on a scar line. So my mother said, oh, absolutely. My daughter would want anything cut out of her that she can get cut out. So The surgeon came from upstairs, canceled his day, because that was the plastic surgeon. He wasn't cutting my muscle.
Yeah, yeah.
And they did. I mean, this is how they worked back then. They said, Beth is on the table. She's already under anesthesia. He said, I'm on my way down. And his whole day, he canceled at the cancer center, went down to surgery, and they cut 5 inches of pectoral muscle. It did not infiltrate. I was okay. They took the implant out, woke me up, and told me what was going on. I didn't know. I thought I was going to wake up with boobs.
Yeah.
And then they scanned me.
Yeah.
They didn't have a PET scan back then. They did a full body CAT scan. It was negative. They said, okay, we're going to do a bone scan. Bone scan T2 lit up. So
Okay.
stem cell was called off.
Really?
Yep.
Okay.
Because the chemotherapy didn't work.
Okay.
So they started a new chemo, Taxol.
Mm-hmm.
And then they decided HER2 was just a new thing then. They didn't even test for it in Miami, okay? But they said, well, they just got a test and they're going to test me. And just by a long shot, let's see. Well, they said that I was positive, but they weren't really sure because everybody's came back positive, okay? Everybody's in Mount Sinai came back positive. So I said, wait a second. There's studies for this. Yeah. Somebody's got to have an accurate test in the country. They said, yes, MD Anderson in Texas. So I said, well, send my tumor. And they did. They sent my tumor. It came back by FISH, HER2 positive. And I applied to get into a study.
Okay.
So I had to fail 2 chemos. So I had to fail Taxol first.
Okay.
And it traveled down my spine, into my hips and my pelvic. And then I got the study.
So you get into the study.
Mm-hmm.
They put you on Herceptin?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yes. I had to go into a lottery system. There wasn't enough to go around. So I went into a lottery system. So I started a 3rd chemo. So I wouldn't just be sitting like a sitting duck. I started Xeloda on a Tuesday. And on a Thursday, I got picked for the lottery. So like 2 days later.
Okay.
So,
this is still 1998? Still in that first
still
year?
1998. So
yeah.
Yep. I got picked for the lottery in August of 98. So I got cancer in February of 98. And in August of 98, I started Herceptin.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And that's been the game changer for you.
I'm still here because of it. Yep.
Okay. Are you still on it?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm on. I'm considering going into a study.
Okay.
They don't know because they've never tested. Signatera is going to test my tumor and my blood. They've never tested a tumor more than 10 years. I happen to have mine in my closet and it's in the blocks and it's where they can test it. It hasn't been tampered with. Okay. It's in a box, all the slides, all the blocks. So they're going to try to test it to see if they can get any reading from it because they would need that and they would need my blood to see if they can get a cancer marker really to test my blood. So if I went off Herceptin, they would test my blood every 6 weeks to see if, in their opinion, I'm safe by DNA.
Okay.
So we'll see.
How do you, so you've been able to tolerate the Herceptin well?
Yes, I'm very fortunate. I have no side effects to really complain about. Yep, nothing.
That's awesome. And is it every 3 weeks?
Yes.
Yep. Okay.
Every 3 weeks. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Wow. What a game changer, huh?
Yeah. It saved my life. I mean, it got me stable. They started in August and in November they decided my cancer was stable. Nothing has grown since August. Mm-hmm. Of 98.
Of 98. Yeah.
98.
Yeah, that's amazing. That is absolutely amazing. Do you still get nervous with scanning? Do they, what's your regimen for?
They scan me once a year.
Yeah.
They do a brain scan. They do a full set of CAT scans. Every so often they throw in a PET scan just to throw it in. It's really not any way to really measure me. So everything is done by MRIs, CAT scans. Okay.
And does it freak you out at all, or are you pretty?
No, but I'm going to tell you something. I've had a long time to think about all this,
Yeah.
and I'm waiting one day for like a bomb to drop, you know?
Yeah.
Mhm. So, yeah, because one time we had a scare on a PET scan.
Hmm.
Um, New doctor said, let me just get a baseline.
Yeah.
And when they gave a baseline, what had happened is lymph nodes lit up in my chest. So I'm like, lymph nodes? I'm like, okay, here we go.
Yeah.
But I had COVID. So
Okay.
those lymph nodes they believe were from inflammatory, and I'm okay.
Okay.
So
Yeah. Um, yeah, I don't know. The scanning stuff doesn't bother me as much as it used to. I scan once a year also. I do PET scans, but um I've gotten a lot better at dealing with it. Although I actually just scheduled my next scan for the summer, and it's actually on both sides of 4th of July, which I'm like, I would tell everybody not to do that. Like, don't do that kind of stuff to yourself, and then I'm just like, whatever. I can handle it, da 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 da. But well, how do you feel about, like, do you use a portal like for
for
information?
yes, but I'm so well connected with the
Mhm.
whole hospital for my scans,
Yeah.
that I go in there the next day, pick everything up. So the doctors already know. I know the radiologist. So if I have a question, I just send him a text. What is this? And I pick everything up. I don't like surprises.
Me
Okay,
either. Yeah.
I figured if there's going to be a disaster, I want to digest it. I
Yeah.
want to think about it. I want to Google it 20 times. What am I going
Okay.
to do? And have a game plan in mind before I get that phone call.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not a Googler. I don't want to do that. I guess part of what I was alluding to too is that when you have a portal or when you kind of can access information without talking about it, it's amazing that even a good scan can sound so scary.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that I really kind of I feel like people need to be careful about that kind of thing because yeah, there's a lot of words in there that sound like, oh my gosh, this is here and that is there. And then, unless you know really what you're reading at the bottom, when it usually just says something like unremarkable, which means go,
Well,
right?
I learned they do that on purpose. Years ago, because they got so used to me, the scan was very vague and it just basically said that.
Mhm.
Unremarkable. She's good. And my doctor called me and he said, well, I know you saw your scan. I said, oh yeah, it was great. He goes, I don't think so. I said, what do you mean you don't think so? He said, it doesn't say anything. I said, well, it says it's good. He
Yeah.
said, Beth, if somebody looked at that scan, they would never know you even had cancer. Looks
Okay.
like you had a scan and you're good.
Uh,
He said, no. He said, it has to be wordy. And that's why they put all that stuff in there
yeah.
because they don't know the next doctor or who is looking
Yeah.
at that. And they really need all the correct
Yeah.
information.
Yeah, I get that. That's so true. One of my last scans that I've had issues with fractures in my feet because of the Zometa, being on the Zometa for so long. But I was literally doing the scan, and the tech came out and was like, "Have you fractured your foot lately?" And I was like, "Oh, it's quite possible." Like it was picking up that, the activity there, and I was like, "Yeah, that's part of
That's funny you should say that. I fracture my feet all the time too. And I'm
that's."
going through that now. I have a broken foot on the left side that I walk on that
Mhm.
has been broken for, I don't know, maybe almost 9 months now.
Have you done Zometa?
Mm-hmm. They did Zometa once a month from 98 to 2010.
Yep.
And they decided that I had way
That's
too
also the
much
gift that
life.
keeps on giving right there. That's it.
Yep.
So I
Yep.
stopped I stopped Zometa in I think 2012 or 13 because of I started to get symptoms of ONJ. So I've been dealing with ONJ because of that. But prior to that, I had had lots of fractures and I was actually my brother who's a doctor was like, Heather, it's from the Zometa. So yeah, those feet, those little bones.
What are the symptoms from the OMJ that you were getting?
The
Like,
ONJ, well, so actually the first thing is that the roof of my mouth, they call them the tori, the in the part in was growing together. So I didn't realize that it was getting bigger. But then I started, at the time I was eating like lots of trail mix. And so like nuts or like a sunflower seed would get stuck in the roof of my mouth, like would get stuck up
Oh,
there. And I was
okay.
like, what is going on? And then, so then I ended up going to the doctor, and I had exposed bone in the roof of my mouth is the first
Wow.
symptom that I had. It's really unusual for ONJ to start in the like palate like that. Usually it starts, in the mandible, but I've had multiple surgeries from that. I've lost 2 teeth. It's been a big deal, but it's
Yeah.
been pretty quiet for a while. So hopefully,
Good. Good. I'm
knock
glad.
on wood, you know. And again, with all of this, like whenever we can be talking, I'll take the side effects from drugs over, I mean, I've been stable. My cancer has been stable. So,
Where,
I'll deal with
where was your
it.
cancer? Where was your stage 4? Where,
I had innumerable bone mets. So they literally started listing them, and I was like, stop. I don't want to know anymore. I had a tumor in my left breast. I could feel the met in my sternum. Like I could feel it. It would get achy, but I would carry a lot of things. I would do a lot of things. And it's one of those things that like it would resolve, like I thought, with some, Advil, Tylenol type of thing. So it's kind of crazy that, a bone mat can kind of come and go.
yeah,
And at
yeah.
the time I didn't know it was cancer. So yeah, I all over hips, spine, whatever, all those things. But I was like, stop telling me, because I will then think about all of these, and then it becomes a bigger issue. So,
Yeah.
you
Yep.
know, that's how it goes. But um, so your kids are a little bit older now.
Yeah. Yes. Yep.
And they're both daughters, right?
Yes, I have 2 daughters.
So
Mhm.
what have you done? Have they had any testing done, or has there
Um,
been?
oh, lots. Not
Yeah.
not any kind of blood work or genetic. I'm genetically negative.
Okay.
My mother got cancer at 79 and a half, but hers was totally different than mine. Now, she took hormones for until I got breast cancer. So from 45 to like 65, she took hormonal therapy because she had a hysterectomy.
Yeah.
So she threw the pills away as soon as I got breast cancer.
Yeah.
But at 79 and a half, she got breast cancer, but hers was hormonal positive. So
Okay.
she was genetically tested,
Yeah.
okay, and she was negative.
Yeah.
My grandmother on my father's side had breast cancer when she was 60, but she
Okay.
died at 94 from old age.
Yeah.
But she had breast cancer at 60, and then she had cervical cancer at 76. So
Okay.
all of this is more familiar than anything else.
Yeah.
My kids, when they were 28, both started mammograms and ultrasounds.
Okay.
Mammograms are useless. It's still useless till this day for them because they're young. One's 35, one's 37, and they have dense breasts.
Yeah.
So, but it's routine. They have to do one with the other. So they actually have a mammogram, and then the 2 slides, and then an ultrasound. My younger one has had 2 breast MRIs. So, and my older one is probably first going to have one. She's seeing a surgeon on Monday because they see more cysts and stuff, but nobody wants to call it out. So they said, you should go see a breast surgeon. Maybe we should do an MRI. So she is going Monday to see a breast surgeon, and probably will have an MRI done.
Okay.
But so far, so good. So far, they're fine.
Yeah. I have a daughter too. She was 14 months old when I was diagnosed. So she's 25. And she's been in a high risk clinic at the University of Michigan since she was 18. So she has some good baseline breast MRIs. It's a little bit, she's young and trying to work her career, and she doesn't live in Michigan anymore, all those things. But,
I know.
it gets a little frustrating. She does oftentimes, even with the MRI, they'll want something beyond that, and I'm glad they're doing that kind of care. I'm not super freaked out that I don't have any genetic markers either, but it's kind of a lot for a kid to have to handle,
Yeah.
and think about. So I'm glad that the care is available to her and that kind of stuff, but it's a lot. So
My girls would actually both choose to have prophylactic mastectomies, but they won't do them because I'm not genetically positive.
Yeah.
So I mean, what they saw me go through, at such a young
Yeah.
age, when they gave me, 6 to 18 months, I had to have like a different talk with them,
Yeah.
because I was going to be on treatment now. We knew the rest of my life. And they really gave me 5 years on the outside.
Yeah.
They told me that, I mean, I'm tough and I'm young and I'm strong and they can throw a lot of medicine at me,
Yeah.
but maybe 5 years on the outside. If it wasn't for Hercept, then I wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
Of course, chemotherapy, all of them failed me.
Yeah.
So none of them worked.
Yeah. How did that change? How did that change your kind of how you thought about life? Knowing, I mean, being given that time limit.
Um, my family would say, "Oh no, she doesn't live differently," but yes, I do. I
Okay.
take more vacations. There's even no, they call me like the fireman. I'm always like doing things, getting it done quick. I'm quick. Okay, about everything. Just in case everything's done in 5 minutes.
Okay.
I enjoy myself. I
Yeah.
do. I mean, I've taken more vacations. I've taken more vacations with friends,
Yeah.
with family. And I don't worry about stupid little stuff anymore. I'm like, it'll work out. We'll just figure it out as we go.
Yeah.
Oh,
I think all the milestones hit a little different too, right?
I love getting older. I
No,
love
I
it. People laugh.
agree. Yeah.
People
Yeah.
laugh every time. I can't wait. I'm only going to be 64 in May. I can't wait till I'm 65 next year. It's going to be like Christmas in May. That's what I can't wait.
Yeah. But even the I was just thinking like the school, the graduations, the weddings, the things like I think it hits a little differently because you're just so aware of the fact that you got to be there for those things,
And
right?
my little one wasn't going to walk. I said, for high school, I said, "Oh, I don't think so." Of course,
This is about me.
I said, "I'm still here. You're walking."
Exactly. Yeah. This is not about you.
It had nothing to do with you. I said, I put the years in.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's funny. Did you make any changes lifestyle wise, dietary, I don't know.
No, as a matter of fact, I've probably gotten worse and everybody laughs, okay?
Yeah.
Because I exercised before. I was thin and I did not drink.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that didn't work out so well. So I exercised way less. I
Okay.
love red wine and I don't care what I eat because everybody asks me that. I mean, I'm always careful because I don't want to be fat. That's the only reason I'm careful. If I was naturally skinny, forget it. I would just eat everything in sight.
Yeah. That's fine.
And people all the time ask me, and I said, I don't know. It didn't matter. And I did when I first got sick. I contacted Life Extensions, here in Florida. They're very well known. And I got like 20 vitamins and I started taking them. And I'm like, maybe this will help now,
Yeah.
And I kept my hair for 11 weeks. They documented it because I was overdosing on vitamin E. That said, you'll keep your hair. So I was like, okay. Exactly. Finally, it said, Beth, this is not a really good idea. Put the vitamins down. And I did. All the hair fell out, whatever, I mean, and then I thought, I took all these vitamins. I prevented the chemo from working, but that really wasn't what it was. But
Yeah.
so I don't take really anything,
Okay.
I just don't.
Yeah. That's great. We all do it different, and I think it is all just about, I don't know, living the best life you can live.
Exactly. And I don't poo-poo anybody. I mean, I have a lot of friends who do a lot of crazy things. And, I mean, I wish sometimes, like, why don't you do pot? I said, I don't like it. I said, I wished I liked it, but I might be 400 pounds if I liked it. We like joke around, because I don't take anything.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing. I just take Herceptin. I mean, I just.
That's
it.
Yeah, no, I've been through different things where I mean, I do better or whatever. Sometimes I'm eating great. Sometimes I'm not eating great. It hasn't changed anything for me. I've been stable on Foslodex since 2004, so, I don't, that's what seems to be working, right?
Exactly. We're taking it.
So can we go back a little bit? You were talking about testing for the Herceptin or testing the tumor a little bit because you're probably, I don't know if you're in the same situation. I actually am spacing out my Foslodex a little bit more. We've kind of done a half dose. Foslodex, I don't know if you know, but it's 2 big injections, which is
Yes.
every 4 weeks, right? The
Mhm.
downside to that is like my whole backside is scar tissue at this point, right? So when I first started Foslodex, it was one shot, 250 milligrams every 4 weeks. And then once all of, because it was new, once all the research came out, they decided it was 2 shots, 500 milligrams every 4 weeks. So I did that for a million years. And now I'm back to one shot, so I've kind of, and I feel fine about that. But I just wondered, are you, how you feel about maybe tapering or not having it. I mean,
I
at
have,
this point, it's like,
well, it's funny because Herceptin is an interesting, I don't think most people understand the concept of it or how it really works. Okay. And I didn't either. I
yeah,
kept thinking that, I have an extra gene of HER2. Everybody has HER2, and I have an extra one. Well, you do, but it's not me. It's my tumor had an extra one. Okay. I always thought, oh, my body has an extra one.
got it.
Okay. So I was never getting off of it. They do know I was on weekly Herceptin for a million years.
Okay.
Then it went to every 3 weeks. So it went from weekly to every 3 weeks with testing. I did it every other week for the second million years. And then
Mhm.
finally said, okay, I'll just do it every 3 weeks. But they know that it stays in your body for 25 days. So they already know, and they give you
Yeah.
the double doses. So it's always in your system. Okay.
Yeah.
Because they always give you a loading dose. So there's always some in your system. But I've skipped.
Yeah.
Um, Now I'm doing it every 4 weeks, and
Yeah.
an insurance company can always say, well, that's not protocol. Meanwhile, they're not arguing. But,
Yeah.
so I have missed, I've gone 4 or 6 weeks out and then had it, it's
Sure.
like I don't stop my life for it anymore. If I want to go
Yes.
away, I have
Yeah.
something to do. Hey, I'm not showing up for it, and they're like, okay.
Yeah.
So, and now, I'm hoping that they can get something out of my tumor or blood to see.
Yeah.
I didn't realize there's a marker, a DNA marker for HER2.
Okay.
I maybe I have the marker, maybe I don't. I don't know. So
Yeah.
we're gonna find out and see, which would be interesting.
Yeah. And I mean, I think it sounds like we might be similar in that I'm fine with staying on Foslodex. It takes me 10 minutes. I walk in, I get my shot, I walk out. You know what I mean? I'm not super same with you. Like if I need to miss, I'll miss or whatever. Now we're stretching it out even more. There is a little piece of me that's like, is this really doing something? Like, do I need to continue this? But there's also the piece of me that's like, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Like
Well,
you don't.
that's what I'm thinking too. It's
Yeah,
like, what am I getting myself into? You
yeah.
know, and so it's a hard decision. It's
It is a
because
hard decision.
I'm sure medicine is doing something to us internally, but me and you both don't know. I mean, we
Right,
really just live in life and we're not feeling it.
right, right.
So,
Yeah,
it's hard.
yeah. I mean, I would hate to have, a recurrence because I decided that, oh, I'm going to be done with this drug that really is not um, a problem to live with. So,
I've known people who have gone off Herceptin.
yeah.
Um, every single one of them that I know has had a reoccurrence,
Wow.
which makes me think. I mean, they've been
Yeah.
off of it for years, though. They may be off of it 6, 7, 8 years, and then
Yeah.
they've had a recurrence. Okay, they
Yeah.
were not on it as long as me. Um, I don't know full pathology behind it,
Yeah.
so you don't know really why.
Yeah.
Um, but so it's a scary thought, you
Yeah.
know, to it's like a crapshoot. And everybody says, well, it's okay because if something happens, we'll just put you back on it. But they don't just put you back on with Herceptin. They will
Right.
put me on the chemotherapy and Herceptin, and then they will take me off the chemo again, and you'll just be on the Herceptin again. Maybe it will work. Maybe it won't work. I don't
Exactly.
know.
Yeah, well, that would be my question is it going to work the same way that it's worked now?
I
You know
don't
what I
know.
mean? We have no way of knowing that. I'm literally the only person I know who's only on Foslodex. So
See?
there you
Hey,
go. Who's studying me? Like,
exactly.
oh,
They
come
should
on.
be.
So it's one of those things that it's just I don't know. I don't get to talk to many people about these kind of conversations. And I know we're
Yeah.
definitely blessed to be able to be at those, considering these type of options, but it's also something that's just really, I don't know, worth pondering a little bit. So,
Yeah.
you know, but um, do you have any advice for women who are diagnosed, especially when their kids are young and they're in the middle of it all?
Well, you have to take a step back. I feel honesty. When kids are little and you don't know what to tell them, we're in such a I don't know, precarious. I don't know how to word it. That we're in
Yeah,
such a situation that you don't want to make promises that you can't keep.
yeah,
Okay. I mean, my kids flat out said, Mommy, are you going to die? I said, Well, I don't know. I
yeah,
said, But I'm going to take anything they have to give me not to.
yeah,
I mean, I never made a promise. I tried to make them not worry. I
yeah,
tried to make light of everything. I mean, I walked around bald. They
yep,
were like, we'll shave our heads. I said, that's not happening. Nobody's
yeah,
shaving heads except for me, you
yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah,
And, you know,
yeah,
um, they made light of it with their friends. To me, it's what you make of it. It's
yeah,
how, you know, that's how they're going to feed off of you. I
sure,
made it like no big deal. I
yeah,
mean, my plastic surgeon used to say, you and your kids are crazy. Every time I went in, my kids would take the Milky pens and they would draw eyelashes and eyes on my boobs because I had no nipples. So they
yeah,
would make their version of what a nipple was going to be. And I'd go into the plastic surgeon. He says, You're cracking me up,
yeah,
but that's how they looked at it. I was like, Hey, let's have a little fun. Um, it's overwhelming. The
yeah,
diagnosis is overwhelming. The information is overwhelming.
mhm,
Um, I I'm a patient advocate to people all the time because you know I don't feel that the doctors give you the information that you need immediately. They give it to you in bits and pieces, and to me, you need your ducks in order. You
yeah,
need to know you need a surgeon, you need a plastic surgeon, whether you're really even having plastics or not. I said, get one.
yeah,
You want one in the mix just in case. You don't want to be looking in 5 minutes for one. So you need the oncologist. Doesn't you don't need them maybe in 5 minutes either, but you need to know the players.
mhm,
You need to make a list. You need to make questions. You need to bring someone and you need to write the answers next to the questions. Like when you ask the question and they say something, write down what they said. You
mhm,
know, um, it's because it's a lot of
it
information,
is,
especially in nowadays, way more than back in my day.
yeah.
So
It's like drinking from a fire hose.
yeah,
It really is.
yeah.
So it sounds like you had pretty good support with your mom, and then your husband kind of, you
Mhm.
guys, they could kind of tag team some things, and that happened very much for us as well. How was your husband impacted?
Um, he was great, but I personally think he was devastated. He lost his mom when he was 3, not from cancer,
Mhm,
but so he was raised alone. You know what I'm saying? With
mhm.
with aunts and uncles, and then a stepmom. So I think in his mind he was thinking, oh, it's like deja vu. My kids are gonna lose their mom.
Yeah,
You know, but I mean, I told him, I'm tough. I said, I'm not going any. I even told the doctor that, he's the one who asked the question on a speakerphone when the cancer came back. How long do you think she has?
oh my
And
god.
I don't think that he expected the answer because out loud with me in the room, the doctor said 6 to 18 months. I mean, his face would probably like drop, and I jumped in and said, I don't think so. I
Good for
said, if
you.
you think that I'm leaving these 2 girls to him, that is not
Good
happening.
for you.
I was like,
Yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah, I don't think he realized that this is serious.
okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Well, yeah, it brought yeah, as hard as that is, maybe I don't know, everybody processes things differently. Maybe he needed to hear numbers. They are just absolutely devastating to me to hear like that, right? So,
I mean, he never went to talk to anybody, but I got talked into a breast cancer group, which I was avoiding going to. And then, the person wouldn't let up. So I'm like, okay, I'll go. It was the best thing I ever did. And he said it was the best thing I ever did. He
Really?
would tell everybody that you should go find your group, your
Okay.
girls, because that's the best thing that you can ever do. So he sees the difference in having that support system with people that know. We
Hmm.
could share information, get information. And like I said, there was no internet back then. So you
Yeah.
had to go to the group and get the information,
Yeah.
you know?
Was anybody sick during that time? Did anybody die during from that group? Was that,
Yeah. I
so
have
the
lost,
mental load of that is also,
yeah. I've lost hundreds of friends over
I
the
don't know.
years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I am so fortunate and blessed that I'm still here because the odds really are against me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's really tough. I mean, it's really tough. Um, I I didn't go to a group. I don't think there was a group for 26-year-old moms with 14-month-old daughters with stage
No,
4 breast
no,
cancer.
you're
I
right.
was not going to go sit with a bunch of women that were at least 20 years older than me. And now that I'm that much older, I don't know, we're just in such different stages or whatever, where I am now. That I don't think it would have been helpful for me. But the sharing of information, I think it's a gentle balance, I guess, between um, the investment in other people's lives that, it's hard. It can be hard on people.
Well, I was the youngest in the group back then. Now they
Yeah.
used to say that, right? I
Yeah.
mean, I'm 38.
Yeah.
I'm friends with two women still.
Yeah.
Okay. Judy and Freddie. Freddie, I met in a Cancer 101 group when I was going to have a stem cell. She had a stem cell
Hmm.
back in probably like 97.
Yeah. I had a
Okay.
stem cell too.
And then Judy she was the first person that had chemo like you first, but I didn't know about that.
Yeah.
She had this large tumor. They did chemo first and they took one node out and did one mastectomy. And she's, to this day, she's great, and
Yeah.
they're from my original group.
That's awesome. That's
Yep.
awesome. Yeah. Yeah. I had a woman on, I don't know, not that long ago she's also been on Herceptin since I believe 1999 or close right in there,
Yeah.
and just has really done well. So she's probably one of the first people that I met in person that
Oh,
had lived, so long. So it's pretty
nice.
awesome.
That's nice.
Yeah. Well, I'm so grateful that you spent some time with
Oh,
me
thank
this
you.
morning, and I know that there's so many. I mean, I think to live a life without hope is just nearly impossible. And I know breast cancer can deal a lot of blows to people and can be scary and hard, but it's so important for women to be able to hear from people like you and me and people that are still walking around, that are still here. So I just want to thank you so much for coming on. Is there
Thank
anything,
you for having me.
yeah, anything that you would like to say before I?
I want everyone to know, don't give up. You're right.
Yeah,
We need hope, and there's always someone out there online to reach out to,
yeah,
and we're all here to figure it out together.
yeah, yeah. And it keeps, you know what, changes keep happening, and that's a great thing, right? And sometimes, you stumbled onto Herceptin in the very beginning, and I stumbled onto Foslodex in the very beginning, and
Yeah,
I'm sure there's still a lot more of those beginnings happening. So
that's right. That's right.
thank you so much, Beth.
Thank you, Heather. Thank you.